Welcome to Kevin Navigates. And today I'm talking about silver. And what is important about silver? Well, I think the shiny metal is about ready to break out. And it is kind of hit that area. Now, I've been a silver, I shouldn't say bug or buyer or whatever, for quite a while. I first started buying it. It's funny, working in construction, you get to know some real cast of characters. And one of the characters I got to spend a lot of time with was a framer who drove this Ford uh, E250 van. Looked like it was falling apart. And one day I was on the job site and we just got to talking. And really smart guy. And he's blue collar. Probably had ADD or ADHD growing up, and school wasn't his thing. But when it came to framing, this guy could frame anything. I mean, geometry just naturally knew it. Algebra just naturally knew it. He had a guy that taught him when he was in high school, and he just never went to college, did anything else but become a framer, framing houses and commercial buildings and things like that. But he really understood, how to use his hand, how to use his mind. Done very well for himself. Well, long story short, this is probably about 7 or 8 years ago. We're talking, and it's lunchtime, and it started to rain. He said, "Hey, jump in my front seat of my van." So I go to jump in his front seat of his van. He's got this bag in the seat, and I go to pick the bag up. I went to pick it up. I said, "What do you have in here? Lead?" He goes, "No, it's silver." And I said, "Why do you carry silver around in your van with you?" Now, this is on a job site. His windows are down, everything else. And at the time, I didn't know much about silver. Silver was trading spot price. I didn't even know what spot price was, but it was $18 spot price, 17, $18 spot price for silver. He's got a big bag of it. And he goes, "Oh," he goes, "I'm a precious metals dealer." And I said, "Wait, you're a precious metals dealer?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Stop it." I go, and at the time, I had traded, stocks and silver. As far as holding physical silver myself, I had gotten some, gone through coins and through the family passed up. I had gotten old silver coins and silver eagles and different things, but I really didn't pay much attention to it. So the story is, I said, "Do you mind if I look?" And I looked inside this bag, and he had these. They were plastic containers, round tubes, and they were filled. And in the tubes, there was 25 coins in each tube. And I started opening the tubes up and started looking at them. And he had bars, and he had 1 ounce bars, half-ounce bars, uh, all different size, 5 ounce bars. And it was all in this bag in this guy's front seat. And I said, "This has got to be a lot of money." And he goes, "Yeah, it's a little bit." I go, "So get me educated on this." So he had a booth in a flea market that on weekends, what he would do is he would set up at this booth and he would sell tools, and he would also sell silver at this flea market. And he was the type of guy that was always buying saw blades and drill bits and things like that, that other guys that were in the trade would buy from him. He had plumbers, he had other framers and different things like that. And he would buy a pallet of saw blades at the port, and he would load it into his van. He would take it to the flea market. He would buy these blades for, let's say, 25 cents a piece, and he'd sell them for like $1 or 75 cents a piece. Even if he got 50 cents a piece, he was doubling his money. And the whole time he was doing this, he would set out silver coins because he had became so interested in coins that he just naturally went through it. And again, this is where, sometimes the cover of the book doesn't really reveal what the book's about. And if you were to look at this guy, I mean, his hands were just so weathered. His face was weathered from being out for framing, working with wood in all kinds of sun and weather for, I guess he's in his mid 60s. So he's probably been doing it for close to 50 years, if you count when he was in high school. So I started buying silver from him. And, I'd have, $100, $200, whatever, and I would buy silver from him. And he started educating me on the whole thing. And his whole premise was that silver was going to the moon and everything else. Well, I can honestly tell you that it never went to the moon. I kept buying from him. I still buy some from him to this day. And it has been a great way to store money in a physical asset that I just park it, and I have more than doubled my money on it just by doing that. So I guess where I'm going with all this is that I'm not a silver bug, I'm not a gold bug or anything else, but I have seen through this, and there's a whole culture behind silver. Now, gold is a little bit more expensive. People are less likely to buy into the gold and the silver, but I've been paying more and more attention because with this market that's going on right now, I'm looking at it going, I just feel that it's top heavy. There's a lot of hedging that can be done. There's a lot of asymmetric things that can be done. But as far as the underpinnings, I did a live yesterday talking about the chaos in Los Angeles. I talked about sitting in a shopping center that was more than 50% vacant, uh, talking about the inspectors that I talk about, that nobody wants to build real estate, talking about if you go on Zillow or MLS or anything like that, talking about how uh, the whole market is slowing down. I listened to a really good thing. Actually, my wife sent it to me. It was on Robert Kiyosaki had put out about this fourth turning, and how uh, the whole world is changing, and basically, if you own assets, that you'll be okay. If you don't, if you have debt, they say cash is trash, and it's true because if you look at how we go, excuse me, if you look at how we go from $36 trillion in debt, and how do we get out of that, the playbook has been written before, and it's one of those things to where we are going to inflate our way out through printing money. uh, that's just how this is going to play out. So cash over time is going to become worth less than what it is now. That's kind of obvious. So, getting on the topic of the silver, I got some stuff to pull up now. Let's see here. Why do I think that there's a silver squeeze, and why is silver moving? Because you know, gold has basically been holding strong. Gold has been performing extremely well, and there's something brewing underneath. If you look at what's happening with geopolitics around the world, with Israel, with China. You look at what's controlling the gold market, and it's basically Asia. Asia has taken control of the gold market with their buying and their pricing. So, the smart money, they're kind of rushing into precious metals because it is a store of value. The One of the ways that somebody that was really smart explained it to me was gold and silver, specifically gold, it is a measure of how much energy it takes to extract it. So, for example, if gold is selling for, let's say, $3,000 an ounce, it probably cost $2,700 an ounce to actually pull it out of the ground. So, because it is a finite, or because it is not something that you can get anywhere, there is a limited supply of it. It's almost it's the same reason why my thought of Bitcoin has changed. It's because it's supply and demand. If you're the government, if you're the Treasury Department, and you can just print dollars at any time that you want to print dollars, the only supply and demand is how you make them available or don't make them available. And if you want asset prices to go up, all you do is you print more dollars. You can't just go out and mine more gold. I mean, there's a cost associated with it. It really, actually, the cost associated with printing dollars goes down the more dollars that you print. But actually, gold, that's not the case. It's the diesel fuel, it's the labor, it's the washing, it's the mineral rights, it's getting it to market. It's all of those things that go into it that makes it a store of value. So there's a thing that they call the gold and silver ratio, and this is basically a ratio between and there's a typical range in which that ratio has been. Now, our I think we're starting to see in the last decade, um, they've all been this calling of this silver squeeze, a silver squeeze. I think we're probably getting pretty close to there. So, recently silver broke out in price on a chart, which was a key technical indicator that silver might be headed back up. Now, silver's been up over $50 before. It been a while, hasn't gotten back there. Gold is hovering near its all-time highs, although it did fall a little bit the last couple of days. Global uncertainty around the world, inflation and geopolitical conflict has really led to gold, and I'm talking gold and silver together because they mirror one another. Gold has been a store of value in a form of money for 5,000 plus years. Silver has a background to where it's been more of an industrial metal lately than it has a monetary metal. Silver was a monetary metal. And then what happened in the 1890s, the US pushed for a gold as a monetary um, foundation, and China was on a silver monetary. And you look back at countries like Spain, Portugal, these shipwrecks, they get all these silver medallions, these silver coins that these ships were carrying. That was a monetary metal. That is not necessarily the case anymore. Again, silver does hold value, but it's been more gone to where if you're doing solar panels, data centers, it's EV cars, they have a lot of silver in them. And it's because it's conductivity that silver is in more in the industrial metal space. So where I'm getting with all this is that there's this ratio between gold and silver, and that ratio over time has been historically between 60 and 80. So it's kind of signaling a little bit of a alarm right now, because it's up in that 94 to 1 ratio. So basically, it's 94 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. Typically, we're in that 60 to 1 ratio or 60 to 80 ratio. It has ballooned up to 120 to 1. Well, every time that ratio goes above 80, it kind of puts a little signal out there that silver is underpriced. And and the reason why we talk about silver and gold side by side is because gold itself, and I'm not an expert in this, I just follow it. I look for opportunities. I look for things that may present themselves as of a place of value. It's looking to me like silver might be that place of value to start looking at, of acquiring, because eventually we're going to get back in that range of 60 to 80 to 1. Uh, if you look at where it could potentially go, price range, there's a nice upside to what silver could go, especially if gold keeps going. So I look in my mind and go, is gold, is this just something that is, a passing in the night? And I don't think so, because if you look at all the unrest around the world, the way these central governments are playing their rule book is they are buying so many metric tons of gold. They're putting pressure on purchasing of gold. And by doing that, it's naturally pulling silver up because of these ratios. Because, you know, a lot of people can't afford to go out and spend the money on an ounce of gold, but you can acquire silver over time. Now that's something that I work on is I buy so many ounces of silver and then I'll convert those ounces into gold. And it's just an easy way of doing it. Now, um, right now, silver on a historical basis is cheap compared to what gold is. So let me get back to this chart over here. Okay. So, for example, when this ratio starts to collapse, silver tends to outperform gold dramatically. If gold goes up by 20%, silver could go up by 50% because if that ratio gets more in line, and that's an opportunity. And that's why this, I say, silver squeeze 2.0 isn't just hype. It's basically math. It's looking at the math of everything. And you got to ask yourself, well, is why is silver an asymmetrical play? And it's because those central banks are buying this gold. Um, you know, Gold is the sovereign hedge for these central banks. It's not for trade, but it is a geopolitical weapon. China, Russia, India, the other BRICS nations, they have quietly been accumulating thousands of tons of gold over the past 5 years. And the one thing about all the governments do is they all lie about how much they have. They have far more. I mean, look at the United States, for example. We can't even get an audit of how much gold we have. So, it's something that they all naturally are doing. Um, you look at China's behavior. They're both buying gold and silver mines. I mean, they want to control the supply chains, and that's what China does. They love controlling the supply signs of it. So let's make a case for silver in 2025. The solar panels, the data centers, they all require EVs. Now, you can make an argument that the solar panels and EVs are going out of favor. But the bottom line is we don't mine enough silver to meet the demand for the next 10 years. So if that demand doesn't go up, we still can't meet that demand with our production rates right now. There is a monetary demand for retail. You look at what's happening at Costco, and Dana, who's a friend of mine, who's a gold dealer, precious metal dealer. He was telling me the amount that Costco purchases of silver, and it's amazing the amount of silver coins that Costco itself is selling. So there is a retail demand for it. Also, you go in other countries, there's a demand for it. Coins and bars are back ordered in many locations. What's interesting and what's so different is when I was talking to Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, a few weeks ago in Florida, and he was telling me this story about how when he was in Vietnam, he went to a village, and there was a real famous lady in the village, and there was a silver mine there, and the Vietnamese were mining silver. And he went there to buy silver because he figured that he could buy it cheap because it was war times and everything else. Well, no one spoke English, and he was saying how the lady that was in charge of the silver in the town, he said, "I want to buy silver," and she said, "Spot." And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He goes, "Spot." The moral behind the story is even though you're in a war-torn country back in the 60s, in an area out in the middle of the jungle, there was a universal pricing for silver around the world, and it's the spot price of silver. I didn't know what spot price of silver was when I first started buying it from my friend who was framing houses. I quickly learned. I put a thing on my phone. I put an app on there. So now I know what the spot price is. Everybody can check what spot price of silver or gold is around the world at any time. So that's something that a lot of things don't have. Millennials and Gen Zers, they're discovering silver through TikTok, Reddit, finance influencers. If silver breaks $40, then that's when retail FOMO starts to kick in. So remember, it's both, silver is both a commodity and a currency. So it gives it a dual, identity. Let's see what else I got on here. Asymmetric trade ideas. So one way that you can make it if you don't want to purchase the metal itself is through the miners, because typically you can buy something like SILJ and their miners. They will move usually 5 to 10 times the amount in price that what the silver will actually move in. You can buy options on it instead of purchasing it yourself. The other idea is you can buy something like First Majestic Silver or something like that. I prefer buying the metal itself and just storing it myself, but that's me. But there's all kinds of different ways to do that. Um, uh, what else do I got? Real quick, I do think that this is an opportunity everybody should think about. Let me know in the comments below what you're thinking. If you think this is an opportunity to actually purchase silver. But anyways, it's my thought for the day right now. I'll get back to you with other thoughts I might have, other opportunities in which you could possibly make some money. And I'll catch you on that next one.